Amanda from devotioninaction.com, and we are in 1 Kings 17 and 18, and we're moving on to 18, and you'll notice some light pencil marks. I kind of drew this in ahead of time to save a little bit of time and used my ruler and my pencil, and now I'm going over it in black micron pen. This is the story of Elijah going up against the 450 prophets of Baal and calling down fire from heaven, this amazing miracle. If you haven't watched the devotional the devotional video, I encourage it. It's a fantastic story and so faith building in our amazing God. But here I am drawing in the flames, the fire coming down from heaven, and I kind of had this picture in my head of a man kneeling and praying in front of an altar and the fire coming down kind of behind him. So we're seeing his shadow in black is what this is going to turn out to be, and all the colorful fire and the altar behind him. So I've drawn in these. I used for the altar blocks, I used very strict measurements, but as I'm drawing in the blocks, I'm kind of making them a little less rigid, a little more curved on the edges, not very much, but a little bit more than just straight lines and 90-degree angles on the corners of the stones. On these letters for the word miracles, you'll notice I put the ruler up there to show you that the little marks is what I use to determine the width of all of the letters. So the little marks on the see-through ruler I was able to use to kind of determine the width. Again, they are very strictly drawn in pencil, but then as I go over them, you get some more organic lines from the pen, just because my hand is not that steady with the pen, I guess. And so I kind of like that. It makes it look more realistic, but it does keep the letters the same height and nicely measured out and all of that. So in the pencil work, I did it with the ruler and was very exacting. With the pen work, I'm just trying to get pretty close to my pencil line so that it's fairly straight, but has a little bit more of the organic lines of someone just writing or drawing block letters. And up here, I'm just writing in cursive, Time for, and that's the title of our series, A Time for Miracles. And so I loved this chapter in 1 Kings. Here I'm showing you I'm going to use my Prismacolor colored pencils. I love these things. You can get so many different shades out of them. If you color really lightly, you could barely see this gray, but if I was to press down, you get a much darker gray. So what you're going to see as I color this in, I would start with a lighter color, like that very light gray. Then I'm going with a little darker gray, then even a darker one. Some of them, if I want to add a little bit of brown into the gray, there's some of that. And here's an even darker gray. I'm kind of making these almost like thunder clouds that the fire falls from. The same process continues. So a very light yellow to begin with. All of these flames in very light yellow, just giving them kind of a base that I'm going to build on with other colors. I was pretty careful around the guy, but I wasn't extraordinarily careful because I knew I was going to go over him in black. Now, I knew that I wanted some blue in this fire as well. So these little inset flames that I had drawn, and kind of lining the clouds and lining the bottom of the altar, I put in some blue flame. Now we're going to come in with a little bit more of a gold colored pencil and just shade some of the spots. Leave some of that very light yellow that almost goes to white, and bring in a lot of this golden yellow on most of these flames. So not very many places did I leave that very, very light yellow. I went to this darker, brighter, more golden yellow on almost all of the flames. Because that light yellow looked a little too, I don't know, lemony to me. It looked like really light lemonade when I got it colored in. And so I'm adding a lot more of that gold. Now, even more kind of orangey gold, I'm going to come in and add quite a bit of that. So on the edges, along the black things, I'm just kind of shading in a lot of that orangey gold in on these flames. And as I do that, I just really, I'm thinking about how amazing this miracle was. Elijah allowed the prophets of Baal all day to weep and plead and cut themselves and petition Baal for fire from him to light their sacrifice on fire. And then he just calmly prepares his sacrifice. Then asked the people to pour water over it until it runs all through it, soaks it, and fills a trench around it. And then he prays one simple prayer that God will show himself as he is, the true nature of God to do the impossible, and God sends fire from heaven, a fire that consumes everything. It consumed the stones, the soil, the water, the wood, the sacrifice. It consumed everything. So this is one of the most amazing miracles in history. I just love this. It's so dramatic and so fascinating. This miracle, it was so faith building to me that this is the God that we serve. He is powerful, and he hears, and he answers. He responds. So you're seeing I'm adding like a red orange in. I'm moving all the way from that light yellow through the oranges to the reds, and a little bit less and less each time as I'm adding in these, but I'm kind of going along edges and creating some depth to these flames, adding in that red orange. Something I have to be careful with, and so I'll say it so that in case there's anybody else like me, is to actually leave some of that very light yellow. Leave some of that almost white color in there, because I get kind of carried away adding in the shading, and so I had to really think about, oh, don't cover everything up. Let there still be some of those tones in there. So I really like how the flames turned out. And now I'm bringing in the lightest colors of these stones, and you'll notice I kind of staggered what colors I used. Grays and tan color and a very light brown, and then I'm going to come in and shade again around the edges of the blocks, around darken that up so that those stones have a little bit more dimension. They're more interesting to look at. On the gray ones, I'm using almost a black, a very, very dark gray to shade in around the edges. And similar to that, kind of a very dark brown to come in around those tan blocks, and then a dark kind of reddish brown, I guess, to color around the edges of the red brown blocks, those more traditionally brown blocks. Anyway, so those are the blocks of the altar, and just wanted to let you know that I did kind of think about which block I was coloring which color. Now, in hindsight, I made the one behind the man's arm, like right there, the one I just did, a little bit darker than I would have if I was thinking more rationally about it. Because I was going to color that man black, it shows up very well on the page. I can still see the outline of all of his features. I had to color that really, really dark, the black. But it was difficult to kind of get it to stand out from that stone in pictures or in video. It's a little harder to see. I mean, you can see it on the page, but if I had been thinking, I would have put the lightest color block, the most different from the black, behind that, just so that it shows that shadow really well. But overall, I'm very, very happy with it. I like how you can see his praying silhouette in front of the altar and the fire. And I'm just adding some of the blue that I used on the flames right around the letters of time for to make that stand out a little bit more. And then I kind of had this, and then I picked up a glitter, like gold gel pen. And I'm just making like little sparks off of the fire and adding a little bit of shine to these flames. I saw it. I dumped out my bag of pencils and micron pens when I was getting started, and I saw it sitting there and thought, ooh, that would be fun. So let's just put in some dots around to make some kind of sparks coming off the fire and some of those sparkles in there. Now for the actual letters of the word miracles, I started out with a white, and I'm making kind of the same thing I did with the flames, only instead of going on top of one another, I'm moving across the line of the word. So I started with white, went to the very light yellow, then I'm increasing in the golden tones of the yellow and darker yellows on into light yellow oranges, and then it's going to go to oranges, into red oranges, into red, and then come back again. Not all the way to the white, but that's what we're gonna just ran out of room, I guess. But I do like how it came out. If the word had been longer, I suppose I could have come back all the way to the white, or if I thought ahead and planned about where to end up with the red So if you're really nitpicky like that and you want it to come all the way back, then you're going to have to plan a little bit more carefully than I did. I just kind of got the idea to make it like the flame and went for it. And I do love how it turned out. You're going to see that here I am coming back. Now I'm using like a red-orange on this E, starting to come back into orange, and then the S will come all the way back into yellow. So I started out with a really light kind of orange coming back the other direction and didn't color all the way through, and then came to a true yellow on the very edge of the S. So there you go. Time for miracles. This is First Kings, and there you see me with the gold gel pen again. I am adding some sparks right around miracles. These are just little clusters of dots. They're hopefully you'll see it when I zoom in on this, go in closer on it. And then I just did some little sparkles over some of the edges of the letters, not over the whole thing, just in little spots so that it would have a shine to it. So zooming in there, I hope you can see those dots. I don't know if you can or not. But this is it, A Time for Miracles, 1 Kings 18. Here's what I used. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much.